get rid of boredom while floating?
Boredom while floating, a great question. I think one of the hardest things with our society these days is that everyone's on the go and everyone's always plugged into something and everyone's always needing to find some kind of stimuli. And I think the hardest thing for people is to be alone with their own thoughts and be by themselves. And so for that reason, floating's not for everybody because boredom can be overwhelming for some people. And I've actually had people ask me, what if I get a phone call or a text while I'm in the float tank? Well, obviously floating is not for you. But boredom is for real, and it's one of the struggles that people have when they float is what do I do with myself for an hour? And it's often just when you start struggling with that boredom that you shift into a different state of mind and the floating becomes a wonderful experience, but getting there is the hardest part. And so one of the best things that I can suggest that people do is to work with their breathing. And so while floating effortlessly like this, to put your hands on your belly and see how few breaths you can take and how deep you can go with your breathing, really expanding your rib cage and your belly as much as you can. And so kind of like this. You can kind of make it a game and see how few breaths you can take. Like sometimes I can get down to maybe 2 breath cycles per minute. And I do 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 cycles of that. And before I know it, I've shifted into a completely different state. Breathing is a great way to help you get over boredom. Sometimes opening up your eyes in the pitch dark, like that, you won't see me with my eyes open, but here I am in the pitch dark. I'm keeping my eyes open in the pitch dark here, searching for light spots that aren't there. And sometimes just that search for the light that isn't there in the tank will help you to shift into a different state. And also just kind of like realizing that your thoughts are so much slower when you're in the tank, even though you're thinking about a lot of things, just kind of like moving to the next thought, moving to the next thought, moving to the next thought really helps too. And sometimes before you know it, the hour's up. But I will say though that even if you float for half an hour and you're bored, get out. You don't have to stay in the whole time. But I do think you'll find that if you can do something to help you get over that boredom, your float will be so much better.